Hello, everyone. It's TaKisha here from Team Origin. I'm just gonna place our little note here to pin. And I see Leslie has joined us. How is everyone doing? Come on in, come on in. I always hate this awkward moment in the beginning, like being silent while everyone comes in. This is real life, folks. We know how this works. How is everyone doing? Where are you tuning in from? Would love to know. So you're joining us today for a conversation between myself and Leslie Tagorda, who is our resident astrologer within the Origin membership and at the Origin company. And I can talk and type at the same time. Not really. Hey Deb, well, thanks for joining. I promise I can type and text at the same time. I know, this is going to be so good. Thanks so much for joining us. Come on in. Let's see. New Moon Creative. That's who you are. All right, here we go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Again, my name is TaKisha from Team Origin. I am head Empress here, which is basically the space holder for the inside of the Origin membership, which is our incredible membership full of amazing humans who are leading empires of their own, which is why we call them Empresses. And today I am going to be chatting with Leslie Tagorda, who is our resident astrologer. And if you didn't get a chance to read her blog post at theorigincompany.co yesterday, it was all about the 7 ways you need to use astrology as an entrepreneur. I personally think she gave away too much information for free. That's my personal opinion. I'm kidding. It was so good. So much good stuff in there. Oh, I think she requested. Here we go. She's an incredible person and has so much wisdom and insight. There you are. Hi.
Hi,
She's
TaKisha.
so pretty. I love hair. I love big hair. My hair gets bigger by the day. And she always gives me exactly what I need every time I see her. So good to see you.
You too, TaKisha. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to chat with you. And I'm here laughing. I was like listening to the introduction. I love everything that you say. Did I really give away too much for free? Because like I'm such an overgiver. I'm like, you need more, you need more.
But you know what? That's great. I mean, that's part of our culture here at the Origin Company. I mean, I feel like Kate in and of herself gives so much goodness away for free. And I think we really want women and entrepreneurs, to be freed up to really enjoy running their businesses and enjoy the lives that they're living and not just live to work. Like, how awful does that sound? So I loved reading your blog post because every time you share with us inside of Origin, I'm always so amazed at how we can use like tools that were basically given to us from birth to like make life easier. Yeah. And yet we may not know how to access them fully. So first of all, start off by sharing with these people who may not know the brilliance that you are, who you are, and what brought you into this work that you're doing.
Oh my goodness. Well, hello everybody. I'm Leslie Tagorda, and I had been in branding for a long time. And really quick before I do my introduction, do you know that we have a Mercury retrograde coming right up, and you've probably already started to feel a little bit of tech glitches and like my internet's being a little spotty. So I apologize. Mercury is already starting on that. So I just wanted to preface that. It starts on Sunday officially, but we're in the shadow zone. So going back to my introduction, I'm Leslie Tagorda, and I've essentially had a business of my own since the very beginning. Like, I'm an Aquarius, so I cannot work for others. I love working in teams, but when there's like a boss or something, I just can't do it. So I've had a design business since about 2004. I've been, doing this for a long time. But I would always get stuck in this cycle of comparison, copying. It was like massive, massive kryptonite. It was to the point where I was like, I have to like throw my business away and go work at Starbucks, right? Like every time we're thinking about closing our businesses, we're like, let's go work at Starbucks for whatever reason. There,
They have
insurance
good
and everything
benefits.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And good coffee sometimes, right, when you're like in a pinch. And so basically, right when I was ready to throw in the towel, I had always loved astrology, and I learned everything about branding, and from my customers we're just like ending up copying and just feeling really bad about ourselves. And then I looked at my astrology chart like in this like moment of despair, and I was like, hold on a second, there is a whole branding framework here, because I knew that we were just more than our sun signs, that we have our moon sign that shows us like why we need things, and our rising sign, how we present to others. And I was like, wait, these are all little pieces of a brand. And like when you kind of come into this like insight and you're like have this realization, like the teachers come to you, like all of a sudden all of these doors start to open. And so I had people were referring me to other like astrology teachers, and people like started, I got my framework validated by all of these other my mentors, my astrology mentors, and I was like, this is something. I'd always loved business. I'd always loved this idea of how do we present ourselves without feeling bad, without having this idea of like we should be a certain thing. How can we be like our natural self? Well, our natal chart. Nobody has the same imprint. Like not even twins or triplets will have the exact same natal chart. So I was like,
That's so cool.
right? Isn't that so perfect? So I was like, this is a framework of how we need to show up as a leader in our businesses, because ultimately, if you're a business owner, you are a leader.
That's so true. And I always wondered that. So like nobody, well, I guess unless they were born in the exact same birthing space at the exact same time in the same city. So even if I was born at the same time as someone else in another country, we still don't even have the same natal chart.
No. So even I know that you've worked in the birth industry for a long time. And so if you have like multiple births and the children are being taking their first breath, like maybe 15 minutes away from each other at the exact same spot, our
Yeah.
rising sign shifts every 2.5 minutes.
Oh,
So
wow.
even though the planets will be the same, their house positions will be the same. So they're like the way that their planetary energies come out completely differently.
That is so cool. I am personally geeking out on this. So in your in your blog post,
Yeah.
you shared some really great insights on like the way we can structure our businesses based off of our sun, moon, and rising. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so our sun and our moon and our rising are our big three. And if you're into astrology, you already know your big three, and you probably know a lot about yourself. You probably know about like romantic partners, because those are always like the stepping stone into astrology. Like, oh, am I going to have the match with this person? Is this my soulmate? All those things. But I take it to this next level of like, how do we become our best selves? And, for most of us business owners, especially women who come represented cultures and societal expectations, like we're trying to blend in. We're putting on all the shoulds. We're putting on all of these like expectations that don't necessarily match us. So when we come back to our sun and our moon and our rising, we can actually see what is important to us, what our strengths are. So I look at the sun sign as the what of our business, like what we do
Okay.
so well. It's super specific. So, especially for a lot of us in the wellness space, it's really hard to use that specific language, and we tend to use words like empowerment or alchemy. But what does that really mean to your
Yeah.
business? And our sun sign shows you like what is that radiant energy that's just pouring out of you that you don't want to dismiss, that you want to actually like hone into and start to confidently express and radiate. And then our
Yeah.
moon sign shows us our why. So thinking back, our moon sign connects us to our legacy, connects us to our primary caretaker. And from that moment that we took our first breath, it shows us like what we need, not like what we want, but what we need to feel comfort, to feel secure, to feel nourished. And so when we hone into our moon sign in our businesses, we start to look at our businesses in satisfying those deep needs. And so then we can get really aligned with our whys instead of just saying like, oh, well, I just want to make a lot of money. And it's like, well, honey, if you're a Gemini moon, then your Gemini moon wants to be heard and understood. Money might not be that important to you. Or if you're a Taurus moon, I know you have a lot of Taurus in you, TaKisha, you know, like having that like luxury comfort. So like maybe, yes, you need money, but you're using your money to like nourish your body with like delicious, healthy food, rich clothing. And so our moon sign shows us like what success means to us and that deep need that represents our why in our business. And then I love our rising sign. Our rising sign then represents the how. How do we show up as an authentic leader? How do we package up our business and our brand? And how do we take initiative? So our rising sign is so important as this kind of capsule that says, here we are, like we put our pretty little bow on it, but like the package and the wrapping and the leadership is all 100% us. So those are how like our big three work in our natal charts, and everything else serves that. So if you're looking at your Chiron or your Venus or all of your asteroid goddesses, you know, there's certain astrologers that put so much emphasis on that. But how do those shiny objects in the universe support and feed our big three? So a little bit of roundabout.
That seems so much more simple because I've been like dabbling with astrology since I was little. And when I got into my teenage years, bought that giant like astrology and relationships book to like look at everyone that I had a crush on or every boyfriend or whatever. And as I've gotten older, like it just seemed like something really interesting to know about myself. Like, oh yeah, I'm a Virgo. And then when I learned about the moon and the rising in the last few years, like, wait a minute, what are these other things? And so it's really been interesting to notice that there's a lot more to it than, you know, how organized I am at home and who I might mesh the most with in a romantic partnership. Like there's really some useful tools inside of our big three. I love that so much. It sounds so much more like less like, I mean, it's still a little woo woo, but it's a lot less like romanticized, right? So it's like, yeah, there are these beautiful romantic portions of it, and like maybe it gives you some insight into who you are and how you communicate, but to really it seems like it just takes the guesswork out of like, so even if I know who my who is or my what is, like how am I going to do this, like just to be clear on like the how of it, like what else do you need to know? Like
Yeah, I feel like there's this idea of we need to make things harder, right? And that's
yeah.
why I love being part of the Origin Company, and I love the framework that Kate has created around doing less, because that's really how I see astrology. Like, I see astrology as a practical tool. It's not just a spiritual tool or a soul setting tool. It's really showing us our strengths and how we can run our businesses with more alignment and more flow, which ultimately relates to bringing more ease and doing less, because you're not wasting all your energy trying to be something you're not.
Exactly. So, and inside of the Origin membership, you create what we call our cosmic weather forecast every month. Can you share a little bit? I know what it is, but can you share a little bit with those watching or tuning in or listening to the replay, what that is exactly, and like your process, maybe a high level process for creating that?
Yeah. So what I love about co-creating the cosmic weather is that you let me know what the theme is for the month. And almost always I can see how the stars are supporting it. So when I'm looking at cosmic weather, how I deliver it is I look at like the big shifts where planets are moving into new signs, or the different like lunations. Like I know a lot of us here work with the lunar phases, especially new moons and full moons. And I also look at other outer planets and how they're aspecting, and looking at these big shifts. To me, when I see the stars and the planets and doing like different things in the sky, to me, they're asking us questions. They're not telling us like, do this, don't do that. Like to me, it's not that black and white, but it's saying, get curious, feel into it. What does this mean for you? So for example, we have a Mercury retrograde coming up, and instead of working against the weather, right? Like if you knew that a hurricane was coming, you wouldn't try to plan a birthday party.
Right.
Right. And so why do we work against all of those energies? If we know the weather, we can prepare for it and say like, oh, what is this Mercury retrograde asking us to do? So Mercury is about communications and information and perceiving how we express ourselves, how we understand things. And so when Mercury appears to go backwards in the sky, it gives us this reset. And so just understanding those that cosmic weather, I pose a lot of questions and the themes, and I ask people to get curious with like, how are you going to integrate this in your business?
I also love that you include some extra guidance in understanding that not everyone understands the houses and all of this, and then you break it down and sometimes provide us with videos to understand a little more about how to integrate this information. So I want to thank you so much for that. I know that the members inside of Origin really appreciate that extra guidance, because we're learning so much about ourselves. So I feel like this cosmic weather that we receive every month inside of the Origin membership gives us this relationship building tool, an additional relationship building tool for not only getting to know ourselves better, but why am I creating this business? Who do I want to serve? How do I want to show up every month? And I think it's just such a wonderful offering.
Thank you. And I think going back to that idea of relationships, especially since we're in Libra season right now, and in Origin last month, we were talking about the soul customer, and Libra is about that soul customer. We focus, yes, we need to know who our soul customer is, and we need to know how to attract them and what their pain points are. But ultimately, when we become better versions of ourselves, we just kind of become more attractive and more magnetic to the people that we are meant to serve. So one of the things I love to really remind people is that it's not about becoming your ideal customer. It's about becoming a better version of yourself. And astrology really shows you all of those potentials.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Angela here said she had a reading with you, and it was so eye-opening and gave her so much clarity. I know. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And just to have that clarity in understanding like your sun, moon, and rising, and understanding what that means about who you're supposed to serve and how you're supposed to show up, and then how to work with these cosmic, I guess, episodes, things that are happening, like, Mercury retrograde. I also heard recently that since I'm a Virgo sun, that a Mercury retrograde after Virgo season may not be like a hard experience for me. I don't know. I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm open to a Mercury retrograde not feeling hard. Because...
Yeah. I mean, especially for like the Virgos and the Geminis, because Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini, they can really feel the Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, I can feel when it's coming. My dreams get really, really intense. And last night it was like I was living lucid in a whole nother realm. And I woke up and was like, so I'm here again. Anyway, it was exciting. I wanna understand more about these the 7 ways that you outlined in your blog post that entrepreneurs need to be using astrology. And you said the first one is like as a strengths finding tool. And I think you kind of alluded to that a little bit, with like figuring out your big 3 and all of that. Is there anything else that people might need to know about, like, what does that mean?
So in terms of strengths finding, if we think back to like all of these strengths finding tools, where whether you've taken a Myers-Briggs test or if you've taken like like the Gallup Strengths Finders test, these are all kinds of psychological analysis and
Yeah.
assessment tools. And sometimes when we're taking those tests, we know how to rig them. And so if you've ever taken one of those tests and you come back with the result and you're like, this doesn't really feel like me.
Yeah.
Because
And you take it again and answer
yeah,
differently.
and then the results come out differently. But those tests were all built on psychoanalysis that was created by Carl Jung. And Carl Jung was an archetypal astrologer, meaning he loved looking at the myths and how humans, like in our culture, we start to wrap these stories in us archetypally. And these archetypes are based on the zodiacs that are represented
Mm.
in astrology. So when we start to look at your natal chart, you can't fudge the answers on your natal chart. It was just like you took your first breath at that certain time on earth from that certain place, and your soul, I believe this, your soul chose that certain imprint. So you can't fudge that. So in a way, the strength finder is even more accurate. I have a really good friend who is a PhD scientist, and he's very logical and he loves data and he loves facts. And he was going to this like leadership coaching, and he was working with this leadership coach, and she was having him take all these tests. And he's like, these tests are not like, they're not showing the type of leader. And I had his natal chart and I was like, well, you're this type of leader. He's like, whoa. He's like, that feels more accurate to me. And so even like talking with a scientist who's, he's a little bit into the woo, but he still has his like his skepticism, rightfully so.
Yeah.
I can
Very
appreciate that.
pragmatic. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a very accurate strengths finding tool because you are not like fudging the answers consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah. I know I can't just say, well, let's just pretend I was born 5 minutes earlier and see what happens. Like,
Yeah.
because you would know that that's not true. So, well, so
Yeah.
then speaking on that, like, what if someone doesn't know what time they were born? So, like, that's the case. Like, my partner, he doesn't know what time he was born. I'm sure we could probably call a hospital in Newark, New Jersey and figure it out. But there are a lot of people who might just know, the day, the location, and that's it. What can people do there? Like, how accurate can they get around their who, what, and how?
Yeah, well, definitely what you said, like that first step is contacting the hospital or the county that you lived in to see if they've taken accurate birth time results. And there's a lot of places that haven't. And so if you know the time and or the day and the excuse me and the place, even if you have a short window, you can work with astrologers, not me, but there's astrologers called rectification astrologers who can
Mm,
reverse engineer events in your life to kind of pinpoint a minute. And there's even been people who are like, my birth certificate says this, but my mom said that wasn't the right time, and this rising
yeah.
sign just doesn't feel like me. And so if there's ever like this deep doubt, then definitely talk to a rectification astrologer and they can kind of reverse engineer and pinpoint an exact time for you.
I I I hadn't heard of a rectification astrologer before you mentioned it, but a couple weeks ago. And I think that's so interesting because I know there are so many people, like I said, who there's hope. If you're one of those people
Yeah.
and like the hospital doesn't exist, no one knows what time you were born necessarily, then there is still hope for you. My partner he was a twin, but that they didn't know was in there. So his brother, I think he knows what time he was born. I think everybody was just ready for him to be born. And then my partner was born like 5 to 7 minutes later because they kind of thought he was the placenta, which is kind of terrible.
Yeah.
But um, so yeah, so I'm really curious to find that out and even looking at all the people within Origin who put in like their sun sign, their moon sign, their rising sign, and just to see how it resonates with so many people to um like, oh, I had a feeling. I think just the other day someone was on a call And she said she did that work, like from the workshop that you did, our last workshop. And she was like, everything was so clear. Like I changed things around in my business, and now like it makes so much sense. Like I cried because it just all of it came together. And so there's something very real to this, and I'm excited that there's like a cheat sheet. That's why I said I feel like you gave a lot away in this blog post. Y'all go read this blog post, and then you comment and tell her how it's really resonated with you, because it's really, really good. And I'm excited to know about how, so you talked about the brand positioning that keeps you from copying other people, because there's a lot of copycatting and looking at other people's IG and thinking that you must do it the way that they did it. How did that for you personally, and you showing up in this space, how did that impact though, like in knowing this, how did that make it, I guess, safer in your body to be like, I'm just going to show up as myself because this is what my chart says who I am? How do you use that wisdom?
Oh my gosh. So that is like my deepest ultimate mission, ultimately, because that idea of comparison, that comparison was like a huge kryptonite for me. Before I understood my astrology and how I was really supposed to show up, I wouldn't even show up. Like I would hate to post things because I didn't feel like I was good enough. And, part of my story is that I'm mixed racially. And so while it was okay for me to be in public, and I grew up in Hawaii and there was a lot of mixed people, in my family identities, I was always code switching and not really understanding who I was supposed to be. So, if we have like people who might, relate to having a mixed identity and saying like, who the heck am I supposed to be? Because when I'm with my Filipino family, I'm not brown enough. Like I was always called the whitey, even though like I'm clearly very brown. And then in my Jewish family, like not talking to my grandfather because he disowned us because I was half brown and not white. And then having my stepdad, who is Japanese, who their family was always so loving and accepting, but it was clear that I was not Japanese. And so like pretending. And so I grew up like just always putting on these different hats and pretending. And so I think I know that is why I'm such a proponent for astrology, because for 40 years, essentially trying to be somebody else and just like not showing up. Now, when I understood my astrology and how to bring that really into my business, I mean, I've been only doing astrology in business for about 4 years now. And so that's a really short amount of time considering I started my business in 2004. So for basically like 12 years, just hiding, copying, comparing, like just keeping really small. And then in the span of 4 years, how much I have grown and how free and confident I feel. And that is the gift ultimately that I want to give people, is to know that they have like this big vision. And for all of us like wonderful like spiritual entrepreneurs or multi-talented entrepreneurs, or even if you're very a pragmatic entrepreneur, feeling that you have this freedom to be who you are, and that's what makes you so freaking special. Like there is just this expansiveness and this like ability to say like, permission and validation to be uniquely me.
Yeah. How often do you have people come to work with you, or even the folks within Origin who have like raised their hands about what they're doing? How often have you not been surprised? Like, oh, well, it totally makes sense that this is the work that you found yourself in because of your big three.
Yeah, what's super, super interesting is that people are never really far off, because consciously or subconsciously, these energies are still working, right?
Yeah.
And what is normal for me to experience is that I see people operating at a lower vibration of their archetypal energies, or not being able to yet find the very specific words that really bring their work to light. And so like oftentimes when I'm having like a one-on-one session or like a group session, when I'm talking to people, it's like they're really just doing like a 5-degree shift. to like
Mm.
amplify. And it's just like if anybody has played an instrument before, and like, because I have a background in music, when you're playing an instrument and you're playing a note and it's just a little off tune, it's not like it's just like you're playing a wrong note. You're playing that same note, but it's not perfectly in tune. And so what we're doing now is like perfectly tuning it. And then once an instrument is perfectly in tune, like if you played a guitar or something, once that guitar is in tune, all the strings work together, that instrument just like resonates. And essentially, that's what I feel like I'm doing with most of my people. There's only been like one or two instances where I'm like, are you really sure you want to be doing this?
Wow. Oh my God. You played what instrument did you play? Was it the clarinet?
Yes, I actually still play the clarinet. I have a
Yeah.
whole other career in professional music.
Yeah. 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 I mean, because you like did this, and I was like, that's a clarinet. She's like, definitely a clarinet, or
Did you
maybe
play
a
the
saxophone.
clarinet? Did you play a clarinet?
I wanted to. I was a pianist. I played the piano, and that was actually my first business. I was a piano teacher at like when I was 15 because I wanted to buy designer t-shirts.
No way. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
love that. I used to also teach clarinet when that was like my first job as a 15-year-old too,
Yeah.
teaching private lessons.
Yeah.
See, just
Yeah.
entrepreneurship in our hearts.
Yeah, totally. So you also said number three was using astrology for aligned leadership. What does that mean?
Mhm. Yeah, so this one of these ideas of authenticity, especially for women leaders, we have systematically been taught that a leader is a rich white guy in a suit, bossing
Mm,
everybody around, right? That's like in our culture, in the media, even though that's definitely shifting now for, gratefully. But for those of us, who are a little older, we're not like, we're not young anymore. Like still like just like we're mature, we still have these systems in our head, these societal expectations. And so when we start to use astrology and say, oh my gosh, you're a Cancer rising, let's value emotional labor. Let's value your leadership ability to simply, like you, hold space.
mm,
And I know that when I talk to a lot of like my Cancer rising clients and I give them permission to simply hold space, and that's the way that they become a leader by simply listening and being an emotional support, they're just like, what? Like, I can be a leader just simply doing that? Yes, you can. And so when we start to understand our rising sign, it really shows us the guide that we're meant to be. And then things just start to, that validation again comes in, and that validation is so freeing.
So you said the rising is the how, like how you lead or how you do the work that you're doing.
How you take initiative and how you lead. When I think about leadership, right? Like what is the definition of leadership? It is initiating, taking that
Mm,
first step. It's not necessarily like influencing others or guiding others or having others follow you. It's really like taking that first step and then calling in the people that you're meant to serve through
yeah.
inspiration or education, all these things. So it's really shifting what the definition of leadership is and how that applies to you.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Okay. So number four,
Mhm.
you can use astrology to call in your ideal customer easily. How do you do that? Like what
Yeah.
does that mean?
So there is a polar opposite, like an energetic opposite based on your rising sign, that once you become the most vibrant you with your rising sign, you become a polar opposite, a magnet, like a yin and yang magnet to your ideal customer that is
Mm,
represented by the descendant sign. And so in the beginning, when we were talking, I was mentioning that it's not our job to be the soul, like the customer, but it's our job to understand their frustrations, understand their pain points that we are uniquely designed to solve, and connect with them as like saying, hey, I understand where you're coming from. And oftentimes, the problems that your ideal, not oftentimes, always, the issues that your ideal customers have are direct, those issues so well, because in the seventh house, one of the things in the seventh house is that we are projecting our issues. So, well, you're a Taurus rising again, right,
I'm
TaKisha?
a Scorpio rising.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Scorpio rising. So very magnetic, very polarizing. And like when you trust in yourself, you just become even more of a magnet. When you think about all your ideal partners and even like your husband, when you're thinking about that Taurus archetype that they would be represented by, some of the things that you would get frustrated with them would be something like, why can't you ever change? You're so slow to make a change.
Why are you telling my relationship business here on Instagram? That's true. That's so true. Oh my goodness.
And so you can
Hmm.
see that shadow. You've experienced that shadow, and it's often
Yeah.
the thing that you're projecting onto somebody else. That thing that you often hear yourself projecting onto somebody else is often the issue that your clients have.
Oh. Oh, that's good. Did y'all catch that? That was good. Oh, she just dropped something really big. She just gave something else away. Write it down. That's the thing. If you've got a partner, they're already giving away the answer to the question too. No, that's very good. Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you know exactly so if you know the problem that you're solving for people, and then you know how you're going to solve that initially, or how you're going to show up to solve that, like what else is there left to know? Like you know your what, you know your how, you know your who, and like what their problem is. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
When when you know your big three, you can like really position your business so uniquely. You have your what, your why, your how, and your who, just from those
Hmm.
big three. It's something that I've already shared in Origin with the two workshops that are in the library there. And
Hmm.
it's something that I write about, and it's something that I'm actually working with a small, actually, I thought it was going to be a small group, but it's a giant group right now. We're doing a 4-week intensive where we're covering each of those, the what, the why, the how, and the who. So
Oh,
I feel like once people understand that and how easy it is, it's like, wow, just the energy that you can just stop guessing, stop comparing, stop copying.
yeah. How liberating. And so I've also noticed there's been a not really a mass exodus, but a lot of people are shifting their relationship with social media. Like, oh, there's
Mhm.
just so much here, like it's overwhelming. They're trying to show up like other people, or they don't know how to show up, and the algorithm and all this stuff. It would appear that if you know this information, like you just show up as yourself, right? As, in whatever way speaks to your big three, and um, it would appear that the energy that you're putting out there, that intentionality, and one, it would make it way more fun. And I
Yeah.
think if you're having more fun and you are wanting to have more fun more often, you become more consistent, and then the algorithm shows up in your favor. I feel like that's a good ripple down effect.
Yeah, I feel like what one of the things that I was sharing earlier about keeping small, it's like we don't know what to share. We don't want to feel like we're copying. We don't want to feel
Yeah.
like we don't want to get trapped in that comparison that like Instagram
Hmm.
and social media can just like really trigger.
Hmm.
And once you're grounded and centered in the your what and your why and your how, then you lose that. And
Yeah.
again, that's part of becoming your better self that then just becomes magnetic. And those vanity metrics, like you don't need a giant following to do really good in business. Like I know people who have like 400 followers that are like making bank because
Oh,
they've
yeah.
connected to exactly who they're meant to connect with. And then I know people who have like hundreds of thousands of followers who are
Making no
struggling
money.
because people making no money. Yeah. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many followers you have. It matters
Yeah.
who you're connecting to.
That's true. That's true. So Leslie alluded to two amazing workshops that she's done within Origin, in addition to the monthly cosmic weather. Those are inside. If you are curious about Origin and you're not already inside, get on the wait list for Origin, because you, I, Yeah, you would get access to those bonuses. They're bonuses inside of Origin. You join Origin, depending on the level in which you join, you would get access to those super helpful workshops and then access to Leslie every month in the cosmic weather she shares. Now, you go on to talk about uh, using astrology. Number 5 was using astrology to effortlessly communicate your brand messaging. So I feel like all of this is like you're basically saying you've been saying this, like if you know who you're serving, what you're doing, and how you're doing it, then that would make your messaging more clear.
Oh my gosh, it just starts to pour out of you once you know
Mhm.
yourself so well. Once you know how you're supposed to communicate from that place of initiative. So for example, using you, TaKisha, with your Scorpio rising, and earlier I said to be polarizing. Like for you, TaKisha, with that Scorpio rising, when you're literally telling people, you're myth busting. You're telling people, like, no, that is not the way that you approach wellness. That is not the way that you approach health. And let me tell you why this is wrong. And so, this idea to polarize, especially for a Scorpio rising, you don't need to be liked by everybody. You,
I
you
don't.
only, yeah. And so, to bring
You're
in
telling
that
on
myth
me.
busting,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it doesn't help with I feel like people already expected me because I'm a Virgo. And what I understand about Virgo is that like we just tell it however it needs to be told and we're honest.
yeah.
Um, but also when I found out about the Scorpio and I was like, well, I know some Scorpio suns and they're pretty spicy. So I wonder what that means about about how that, impacts or works with the the sun sign. And then my moon, I'm still trying to figure out what all that is. My moon is a Sagittarius, and just like,
Mm.
yeah, like I've taken so many notes over the months of like your workshops and all these things, just because I think it's so interesting to even
Yeah.
notice my own self in understanding these things, how I've been able to show up a lot more confidently in the space holding within Origin. And,
Mm.
a lot of the calls that we host within Origin, I lead many of those or hold the space for many of those. And it's been interesting to even notice for myself how I felt more comfortable being myself, because like you said, I've spent a lifetime code switching as well, whether it's in a
Yeah.
corporate space or in my family, or I've got lots of ethnicities and cultures in my own family as well. And so it's really um, yeah, the star powered. Are you talking about the workshop, Jackie? Because I like she did the or oh, are you talking about your program? You've got a star
Yeah.
powered program.
Yeah. Jackie's doing, I have the Star Powered book and I have the Star Powered workshop, and then Jackie's
Yeah.
doing the Star Powered intensive. They're all the
Oh,
same. They just go deeper and deeper and deeper.
Jackie, you're on it. I probably would love it. You're right. I probably would love it. So yeah, just to even notice how this wisdom has impacted the way I just show up as a human, not
Mhm.
even in like a business space. And so I'm really curious too, like how
Yeah.
do people, so there's lots of rules of thought, like your business is separate from you. And then also your business, especially if you're a personal brand, your business is you. Like how do you support people in not being like completely enmeshed with their business so that their business failures feel like personal failures and vice versa?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's such a good question. To me, like I look at entrepreneurs, regardless if they have spiritual businesses or pragmatic businesses, I I see them as like spiritual warriors that they
Mm,
decided to create a business because that's not an easy path. Like running your own business is, you need courage, you need strength, and like there's a certain like call in you that says like I have to work for myself, or maybe I need to work for myself. So to me, there's like this spiritual extension, and I look at our businesses as creations, or like a spiritual consciousness from ourselves. And
hmm
so there's other business astrologers that'll work with like the charts of the business. And to me, I'll look at the chart of the business, but only after that person has like really like amplified all of their unique gifts. Because ultimately, when we are starting to operate from this place of wholeness based on our natal chart, everything starts to get easier, not only our businesses, but our lives. And so when we're looking at like business mistakes or business failures, what I love to teach is that we need those failures. Like this is all an experiment because it's, you know, sometimes I'll get people asking questions in astrology, like, when will my business be profitable? I'm sorry, I can't, I can't, astrology won't tell me that. I can tell you what to invest in. I can tell you what's important for you that'll make you feel more abundant because you're investing in that in yourself. And we all know that once we feel more abundant, that abundance attracts abundance. That's what I can tell people. And so I forget what your question was. I just like,
well, yeah, like how are people, how do people not get enmeshed with their businesses? Like, oh, I am it and it is me and there is no separation.
Ooh, yeah, that's such a good question. I don't even know how to answer that question. Our business, I feel like these are just life lessons that we're meant to be. Like like you're a Sagittarius moon, I'm also a Sagittarius moon, and so you probably don't see failures or mistakes as like these things that represent your worthiness. They're like, oh, that's something now new that I know. Let's go try this.
Yeah. Totally.
So I might not be the best person to answer that question because I'm coming from my filter of a Sagittarius moon. And I was like, don't get so down on yourself. Like now, you know, don't go that way because ultimately, even though like I was sharing with some of my clients earlier about this evolution. So even once we know our star powers, we are constantly experiencing it going higher and higher and higher. So it's like this flower that just unfolds and we're learning new things every time that just want like, you're not going to like look at your chart and like all of a sudden have all the answers. You're going to have greater insights. I know that when customers have a reading with me, like a one-on-one reading with me, they get just this data download and they listen to it like repeatedly, like 6 months down the line, a year down the line, and they keep on learning new things, even though it's that conversation's a year old. You hear, you are ready when you are ready. You experience things when you're ready. And if you start to look at business quote unquote failures as business experiences that you needed to learn from, that you needed those lessons to add to your toolbox, then you don't get caught in that victimization that woe is me, like I made this huge mistake, I'll never recover from that.
Yeah. So that's basically your number 6 point, like using astrology for no fret decision making. Like,
yes,
just making a decision and allow that to be the thing, you know, you're learning because you're clear on your why and your who and your what. And so then you kind of have to get like honest with yourself, right? Like, well, was I operating from like my own self, you know, recipe, so to speak, or was I trying to do something that I knew or suspected was not even in my lane at all? Yeah, I feel like that's where people really have to get honest with themselves too. If you already know this information or you suspect, you know, I'm supposed to be, you know, going down this path of, you know, using my body, right, for example, to get my message across, but instead I've been, you know, hiding in a cubicle doing something completely opposite, counting numbers, and I know it felt uncomfortable, but here we are. So I feel like knowing these things can help you make those decisions when opportunities do present themselves, because we do have a lot of people within Origin who are entrepreneurs, like they work inside of organizations, and it would appear that this information would also help guide people to roles and positions and probably companies that really are in line with their big three. Is that true?
Oh my goodness, I totally think so. And especially like being able to talk to like your higher ups to negotiate better pay or better projects when you can
Hmm.
specifically say like, hey, I'm really good at this. Why can't like let me on a project or give me a raise because I excel at all the sun signs? And then with your
Yeah.
moon sign, you know, choosing positions that allow your moon sign to be nourished. Like for you, TaKisha, and for me with our Sagittarius moons, like we can't have a 9 to 5. Like that would like kill us. We need our freedom.
It's true. It almost did. It's true. Um,
Same here.
yeah. So your number 7, your last point in your blog post was using astrology to create sustainable business cycles. What does that mean?
Yes. Ooh, so, you know, in the cosmic weather, I'm talking about our collective cycles, like the cycles that
Hmm.
happen to all of us. But in our own natal charts, how the transiting planets, the planets where they are now, especially like if we just look at the sun, you
Hmm.
know, cycles through our chart every year. The moon cycles through our chart every 6 months. So if I were to just say, like, okay, it's an Aries moon, like everybody, let's get started, let's do all these things, that's only going to work for like 12% of us because how that Aries moon, you know, like affects your natal chart is a little bit different. And so this is a little bit more of more of a technical aspect of creating business cycles. But when we know where the sun is in our chart, and that's one of the workshops that I want to offer Origins soon, is like looking at our annual cycles and being able to plan our business just by looking at where the sun is in our natal chart,
Ooh,
because
that would be
there are
cool.
times, right? And it's really fun. And it's like there, it shows us and it gives us permission to rest. Like there's 3 times a year where the sun is going through our one of our water houses. And if you're just pushing through, like burnout central, and most of us, me included, have like learned that lesson. It's like we just keep on going because we think that we need to, right? And then we
Yeah.
suffer instead of just resting. So we need to.
Yeah. And that's what we're all about in Origin anyway, like putting our bodies first, business second, honoring and listening to our bodies and our own unique cycles, whether that's a menstrual cycle, a moon cycle that you follow, a seasonal cycle, the cycle of life that you're in, all of that. Like, how can you honor who you are and where you are so that everything that comes from you from that season or that stage or cycle is even more fertile, right?
Yes. And like apply and customizing the moon cycle to your natal chart, instead of just going by just where the phases are right now, and also looking at our rising sign, because our rising sign actually represents our body, and it shows
Hmm.
us like how do we put our body first.
Yeah.
So yeah, Scorpio rising for you, like elimination and detoxing, really important. Like having a regular, maybe TMI, regular poop, really important for
Yeah.
Takesha.
Hmm. No, it's
Just
true.
knowing your
That, but that's
Scorpio rising.
right. But that's how I know personally, like, oh, my body is off. Like I'm either not feeling safe or comfortable, or I'm stressed or something. If
Mm,
those processes in my body, or why it's so important for myself to sweat. Like if I know, like, gosh, I haven't, had a good workout in a few days,
yeah,
that's probably why I'm feeling a little stuck or a little crabby or a little unmotivated or whatever. So that's good insight. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
and
there,
Deb shared there where you can go to join the waitlist, originmembership.com, so that you can get in when the doors open. They're not open right now, but when they open, I want you to prioritize getting inside, especially if you spend any amount of time feeling stuck or hustling or burning yourself out or crying under your desk at work, wishing that there was something else you can do, knowing that you can choose differently, but you don't know what you should choose. Get inside. I'm saying all that, I'm totally telling on myself from the last 15 years of my own career, up until the time that I started working for myself and inside of what is now the Origin Company.co. And it's transformative when you know that you're operating and functioning from a place of, oh yeah, I can feel that my soul aligns to this path as opposed to wherever I thought I was supposed to be because my parents said, or my community said, or, my circumstances demanded it for that time, which sometimes happens. So definitely write that down, go to that originmembership.com. I think it's also linked in our bio. If it's not, it will be. Um, so if anyone here has any questions, we've got a couple more minutes. I don't know what question you might have. Maybe even, I don't know, it might be fun. Like, what is your, what would be a good one of a three to know, to like spout
Oh
off
yeah.
like a high level something.
Yeah. What is everybody's sun signs? I mean, we all know our
Oh,
sun signs, right?
yeah. Everyone knows your, like, what is your sun sign? So that's like, oh, what is your sign? So I'm a Virgo. Oh, and someone's, Peas Marina says, what house system are you using?
Yeah, I mostly use Placidus, just the default system. I don't use whole sign houses unless I'm doing more like in-depth cosmic timing. I do use whole sign houses for a little bit, but I love the wonky quadrant style houses like Placidus because it gives us more specificity in terms of finding our unique strength. So whole sign houses for more timing things, but Placidus for natal positioning. So
Oh,
we
cool.
have Leo rising, Cancer sun. Yay, another Sagittarius here. We need our freedom, all the Sagittarius. The Cancer sun, just so sensitive and just like really honoring and seeing the value in your emotions. Ooh, and the Pisces sun, seeing the value in your vision and your just deep compassion. Ooh, Pisces sun with Leo moon. That's an interesting combo. I don't think I've seen one of that before with all that fire and that water. Just like so, think of the fire and the water, just like lots of steam.
Oh, amazing. Like
Oh
purifying
yeah,
and hot to the touch.
yeah. I'm also a Gemini
Yay,
rising.
Pisces sun.
Yes, Pisces
Oh,
sun.
cool.
I think for the Pisces sun sometimes can get really caught up in a little bit of confusion because they're just so visionary. They're so connected to everything that for those of us who have Pisces suns to just or any kind of like strong Pisces to remember to create boundaries and containers so that our we don't just get too interconnected and just like lose sight of myself of yourselves. So
Mm.
beautiful.
Oh, Deb is a Virgo rising. That makes sense, Deb. Leo sun, Sag moon. Oh,
Oh,
so we're also Sag moons. We share a moon.
yay. The Deb Flame, is that her?
Yep,
Oh my
yep,
God, the Virgo. I can totally see that. I was watching yesterday. I'm a little behind. I was watching the replay for the launch training. I was like, yay. She's like so organized. She's like boop, 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 boop.
yep.
Showing, being really organized. And like you also, TaKisha, with your Virgo sun, like you're just emanating organization. Like it's so natural for you, but you have a different kind of container for that. And Deb with her Virgo rising, like people expect her to be like, let's get all these done. Let's look at everything as a whole.
So you're doing the right thing, Deb. Hi, Jeffrey. Oh, there's Jeffrey. You're Jeffrey. Okay.
That's my Jeff. Yes. Hi, Jeff. I hope you don't mind I called you my Jeff.
We're just taking ownership over our people. It's fine. Um, okay. And Jeffrey, for those of you listening, Jeffrey works on Leslie's team. And so I've only seen
Yeah.
his name in my inbox. Let's see. Gemini sun. Valerie's a Gemini
Ooh,
sun. Oh, I love that.
yes. I love the Gemini sun. It's like, and so for Geminis, like there's so much judgment around Geminis as being flighty and just all over the place. But when we start to give permission to those Gemini energies to know a lot and do a lot and be varied, it's like, how freeing is that?
Yeah. Oh, cool. I love that. My grandmother is a Gemini. And I've always found her to be very grounding, but then I wondered if in her younger years she was a little more like, teetering. Like a lot of Geminis that I've known have been a little like um two-faced for lack of a better like for lack of a better
All
thing.
the
But
perspectives,
yeah,
all
all
the
the
perspectives.
perspectives, all the voices, it's like five different people coming at you all at once. And then I've always wondered, like, I wonder if they kind of ground into all these different versions of themselves as they expand in their wisdom years. You don't even know your sun sign. Oh wow. What Net's
When's your
garage.
birthday?
So yeah, when's your birthday?
And then the Happy Venture asked about the Aries. So with the Aries sun, it's like being first, being the best, taking lead, doing what you want, and like using like not being apologetic for wanting to be the best.
Yeah. Well, Kate is an Aries, I believe. Yeah, I think she's an Aries.
Yeah.
And the work that we're doing here, I mean, I feel like we as a company are the first in so many regards in what we're doing, and her vision kind of set us up to be the first in a space. So I feel like that's super accurate.
And vacation. Sorry, I didn't hear what you just said about being the first, and I'm so glad that she's recognizing her Aries. My
I
chart
know.
for
Oh,
here, sorry.
April 7th.
Oh, that's an
April,
Aries.
what is April? Oh, that's an Aries. So yeah, Net's Garage Silica, you're an Aries. Amazing. Look, you and Nicole have the same birthday. So that's your sun sign. Aries is your sun sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're good at taking lead and being the first.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if there are any other questions. So thank you so much. This has been amazing. I know we went a little bit over what I told you, but you were so delightful to talk to. Thank you so much for joining us here. Thanks for taking time out to share your wisdom with us. For those of you listening or watching the replay, go and check out her blog post at theorigincompany.co. It's called The 7 Ways You Need to Use Astrology as an Entrepreneur. Get on the wait list for the Origin membership so that you can take part in her monthly offering, the Cosmic Weather. Follow Leslie here. Just tap on that little icon in the left-hand corner and follow New Moon Creative here on Instagram. She does incredible things. Get her book, all the stuff. Yeah, she's always overgiving. She's always overgiving. She's just so wonderful. That's how you can tell the people who are really good at what they're doing. There's no she gives so much that I can only imagine that everything that she gives on the inside of any paywall that she's inside of is going to be even more delicious. And if you're inside of Origin already, prioritize those cosmic weather updates because they'll probably make your whole month ahead easier, especially going into this Mercury retrograde. Because
buckle in for October. That's a big one. Did you see how long that was?
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. It's gonna be a fun ride. It's gonna be a good one. Let's brace ourselves for, last year at our I think there was a really strong Mercury retrograde in 2020 last year. Like I was on a call and all the power went out in my house. My internet went down. Everything shut off. Like there was a storm out of nowhere. It was crazy. My phone stopped working. I had to get a phone at the last minute. And iPhones aren't cheap when you got to get them at the last minute.
No, not at all.
So I remember that season. And so I'm trying to brace myself for this one.
Yeah, 2020 was hard, but oh my gosh.
Oh my God. For so many reasons. Thank you all so much. Yeah, Jeffrey says, yes, plan according to the stars. For sure. Thank you all so much for joining us here. Be sure this will be saved here. So if you want to come back and listen, if you jumped in a little later, originmembership.com to get on the wait list to join Origin. Hi, Clara. Listen to the replay. This was a good conversation. Again, follow Leslie, New Moon Creative. And I'm so excited to have had this conversation with you. I hope you have an amazing day and take care.
TaKisha, I want to thank you too. You are amazing to chat with. Just such a gifted interview. Just feels so natural. I love doing this with you. So anytime, let's talk astrology. Always up for it.
Yeah, I always have questions anyway. So I kind of feel like I selfishly volunteered for this. I'm I always have questions for people. I always want to know. I just want to know stuff. So thank you so much for indulging all of my silliness and my questions. Thank you all here for your questions and sharing your signs and bringing your energy to this space as well. We honor you. All right. Take
All
care.
right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.